Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Small Business 101 here on Arbite U. I have two special guests today. We have AP Alexandra Palmer, our Director of Human Resources and Administration, and Raj, one of the co-founders or the co-founder of Gritseed. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, so for anybody watching, let us know a little bit about Gritseed and yourself.
Great. Well, first I want to just say thank you for having me and thank you for being a customer.
No problem.
It means a lot to us.
Thank you.
Yes. So Gritseed is a startup based here in Buffalo. Go Buffalo! And the Bills won yesterday, so
Great
all the
day.
more power to Buffalo. So we're a startup based in Buffalo, and we're trying really hard to rethink the recruiting process. So if you think about the traditional process, you post a job, you get inundated with a ton of resumes. We'll call it the resume avalanche. Okay.
It's pretty accurate.
And how do you dig yourself out of that? How do you really know who are the candidates to focus on? It's a really, inundating experience for you. Actually it's a pretty poor experience for the candidates that are applying because most candidates that apply don't hear back. And then what's near and dear to my heart is how do you make sure that everybody gets a chance? We look at someone's resume, that's great, but then we give them an opportunity to really tell their story. So that's the mission behind Gritseed. Gritseed is all about creating recruiting efficiencies. It's about creating opportunity for people. It's about rethinking the candidate experience. It's about rethinking the employer experience and creating this amazing, wow, kind of positive experience for everybody involved. So that's Gritseed in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, any startup, I guess, will tell you that hiring good talent is probably the hardest. No matter what industry, our clients, it's there, you would think depending on industries, maybe it would be different challenges, but it's not. So I guess why did you start? What did you notice? Was it something that were you facing this challenge somewhere else, or why did you start it?
Yeah, so Gritseed is my second company. Mm-hmm. So I'd started a company called Cloud 62 about 9 years ago now. And like you described, Alex, every company's top kind of challenge is how do I find amazing people? How do I tell my story as a company, why you should come work at our company? How do I know, by the way, as a startup, that if I hire that person's going to be the right fit for my company? Because if they're not, the cost of mishires is very high for the company as well as the candidate. So those are big problems. Those are big challenges that every startup faces. And so at Cloud 62, my first company, I didn't have a whole lot of money. We were totally self-funded. So what we decided to do was, all right, well, we're going to try to find amazing, hardworking people that, frankly, are going to be more cost-effective than somebody with, say, 10 years of Salesforce experience, which is what Cloud 62 was all about. So we started off that way. And in the process, we learned that there are tons and tons of amazing underemployed people that if you look at their resume and if they applied for using the traditional process, they would never get a chance. But if you give them an opportunity, if you give them a chance, they can do amazing things for your company. They would be an amazing fit. They would have the right energy, and so on. So Gritseed was born out of necessity out of our first company, Cloud 62, and we have used the same principles. We've used Gritseed to hire people for our company. We've hired a manufacturing line worker who became a full stack developer, a carpenter that became a full stack developer, a roofer that became a full stack developer, a server that became a customer success manager. I mean, the list goes on, and right here in Buffalo, which is what I'm most excited about. So Gritseed came out of necessity, and we really want to take the model from Cloud 62 and scale that across the country for all startups.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
So how does the software platform help candidates and businesses work together? One of the functions that I like is that you can actually converse with the candidates and then they can talk back to you. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so think about the traditional process, right? So first thing is, in this day and age, right, it's so easy to apply for a job. When you post a job, let's say on Indeed or on LinkedIn or wherever, right, there are lots of job boards, you can apply for a job with one click. So that's what causes the resume avalanche. You can literally apply for 200 jobs an hour if you wanted to. So what that really tells you is it's so easy to apply, but then you don't really know if that person really wants the job. So we changed that whole dynamic where we're actually going to put the onus on the candidate to tell you why they want the job. Why do they want to come work at your company? Because what ends up happening is you transfer the burden from yourself, frankly, to the candidate, because they have to tell their story. And we make it so easy for candidates to apply. They can just apply using text messaging. So they don't even have to go to your careers page. You could literally have a billboard right outside, that billboard right out there. We're hiring, text whatever code you want to that number, and off you go. So we make it really easy for candidates to apply, and then we ask them questions that pertain to the job to inform them about the position and to inform you why they're going to be the best position, why they're going to be the best candidate for the position.
Okay, great.
So how does it, you were mentioning how you bring carpenters into development jobs and all this. So how is the platform, I mean, are you targeting those people, or is there something specifically about it? Like, why is that happening?
Yes, great question. So the first thing we do is we widen our recruiting funnel. So for example, when we post a job at Gritseed, we don't say you need 5 years of this or 3 years of that. For us, frankly, we have seen plenty of examples of people that might have 20 years of experience but may not be the right fit for our position. Mm-hmm. So we widen the funnel where we encourage people to apply. See, most job descriptions, what they're used for, really, is to actually somewhat discourage people to apply. Because if you think about it, let's say females in tech, why don't more females in tech apply? Well, the problem is when we say things like 5 years of experience, we know that females tend to say, no, I'm not really qualified for it, so I'm not going to apply for it. So we want to widen the funnel at the top. That's number one. Number two is, because we're an automation platform, we give everybody a chance. And we ask them questions that are so specific to the job that we then determine whether are they going to be the right fit for the job, and they determine the same thing. So it's really important to widen the funnel, give everybody a chance, ask them questions, and then measure how they're working on the problem. So going back to your example of the carpenter, he had a math background. He was the first person in his family to go to college. His dad and I believe his grandfather too, was a carpenter. And so when he couldn't find a job, it was a bit like, oh man, well, I don't think that was the conversation he had with his dad, but it was a bit like, hey, I kind of told you that maybe you should just be a carpenter, and he wanted to be a math major. And so we challenged him on Python, we challenged him on doing things, and we guided him, by the way. So it wasn't just ask him tough questions, we actually told him in the questions, it is okay if you don't know the answer to those questions, because we live in a world now where access to information is no longer the problem, it's what you do with the information. So if you're able to take some hints, some guidance, and be challenged, do you have that growth mindset to learn? And what we have made a big assumption on is the people that take on the challenge are usually the people that will learn quicker, and they'll be able to produce a lot faster and be more in tune with what is it that you're trying to do than somebody that doesn't have that growth mindset. So that carpenter, we challenged him to Python. He worked on those problems for 9 hours straight.
Oh my.
That's amazing,
Wow.
right? That's incredible.
Yeah.
So in my mind, that is grit. In my mind, that's growth mindset. And by the way, guess what? He has already rolled out about 7 new features, and he started at our company in July, first week.
Wow.
So there are people like that everywhere. There are people like that here in Buffalo, in Rochester, in Cleveland, Toledo, everywhere, Toronto, everywhere. And what we need to do as startups, as companies that are hiring, we need to kind of widen our funnel, give people a chance, let them show you why they're the right fit for the job, and you'll be blown away.
So is he working at Gritseed or your other company?
Yeah, he works at Gritseed.
Oh, so you're using it to hire for yourself?
Yes,
That's awesome.
yes, we're using Gritseed to hire people for Gritseed.
That's a good sign. You know it's
Yes.
good then, because it's
Yes.
funny. We've used, like, when we got a new CRM, the CRM company doesn't use their own CRM. They use one of their competitors. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, well, that's a little weird. But so that's cool that you guys use it yourself. It's a good
Yes.
sign.
Yes.
So companies that are using Gritseed, how, besides yourself, obviously, how can they tell if those candidates have the grit that you're talking about?
Great question. So actually, we don't have any fancy algorithm that says this person has grit or not. What we do is we believe that when you challenge someone, and if they go through the process, so if they answer a 5 or 9 or 10 step or 2-step or whatever step process, and they actually do the work that you ask them to do. So you might have 100 people that apply for a job. What'll happen is when you ask these candidates these questions, let's say about 80% won't actually do it. So the 80% self-selected themselves out of the process. Mm-hmm. And then the 20% that do, you can then very quickly zero in by using simple filters like, hey, how much time did this person spend on what I asked them to work on? So for example, did they just type test, 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 test as the answers, or did they actually put in the time? How did they write the code? We have code playback. What was their video look like? Did they show energy? Did they show the right passion on the videos? So based on that, you're able to then go from 100 people to about 5, 7 people, and then you know exactly when you focus on those 7 people, when you talk to them, you can ask them very targeted questions saying, hey, we asked you a question about this Python or this Angular library, and you answered it this way. Tell us, what could you have done better? So the conversation is so targeted, it goes, it's right to the meat of the matter, and you're able to focus in on the right people.
I like that the candidates can give that video response. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
And you can definitely tell there's some candidates that will only give like a 30-second response as opposed to that same question being answered and given like a full 5-minute sincere response,
Yes.
which I appreciate.
Yes.
Yeah, we have our Brazil office, and I mean, we work together as a company, so English is mandatory, and that, for us, that response is like,
Right.
it's a great way to gauge that. Is their English good enough to have conversations with everybody here daily? So that's been awesome. And then the code playback is cool, because you can see if somebody copy and pasted the answer in, or
Yes.
if they just typed it in.
Yes.
So that's nice.
Yes, and how they typed it in too, which is
Exactly,
incredible,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And the other thing about video that we have learned, by the way, is if you as an employer, so we have some companies that are using Gritseed, for example, to take a video of their manufacturing floor, okay? And show candidates, look, this is the actual machine you're going to be working on, or this is the nursing home that you're going to be working in. These are the types of facilities, this is the type of equipment we have. So what you're doing is you're using that as an opportunity to sell your company to them, as well as them using it as an opportunity to engage with you.
So what's the difference between hiring the right person and the wrong person in your experience? What's like, how beneficial is that for, I mean, I know this, everybody.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, what do you think?
Yes. You see, whenever I hire, and I'll answer that question, but I'll just tell you a little story. Whenever I hire someone, I always tell them why they shouldn't come work at my company first, okay? Please don't come work at my company. That's how we usually start the conversation. And the reason why I do that is because I want them to know that if they make a wrong decision, they're going to be miserable. And so are we, by the way. And not just we, but the entire team, the entire company. So a mishire is such a terrible thing for everyone involved that it's so important to set expectations early on and be really clear that, if you're hiring for a startup, look, startups are hard and things change constantly, and we're like bouncing off the walls, and we're doing things that sometimes we don't know how to do, and we're learning and we're growing and we're failing, and some people like it and some people don't. So that's just an example of a startup. So going back to your question, I think setting the right expectations early on, telling them what could go wrong, not to be negative, right, but like just being realistic about it, and also what could go right. And by the way, I always end the interview with, hey, why you should come work at our company, because we're working so hard, we're doing all the things, and my big belief in life is, look, we've all been given a gift. Time is the most valuable gift that we have. And so if you are somebody that appreciates that, then please remember, when Monday morning, when your 6 a.m. alarm goes off, please be excited about going to work. And if you're not excited, then what you're doing is you're doing yourself a disservice, first and foremost, and you're doing your other people around you a disservice, because time is ticking away. And before you know it, again, I don't want to be Mr. Negative here on this podcast, but like, it's ticking away. And you want to look back at your life 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and say, look, I put in my heart and soul into anything I was doing. And yes, I may have failed, but I tried the best I could. And I lived every moment. And that's what matters. So please, think about that when you're applying for jobs. Think about that as founders and people that run startups. And encourage people to be excited about what is it that they do.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned how you try to convince people, you tell them the bad things. Me and AP will be doing interviews sometimes, and we'll be done, we'll be like, did we just, convince them not to work here? Because we paint the picture, like we want everyone to know coming in what it's like. And
Yes.
like you said, the startup environment's a little,
Yes.
some people coming from a big company might not know what they're in for when they're kind of signing up. So That's a good thing to do.
Yes, yes. A funny thing an analogy that I used to always use at Cloud 62 is, we understand you don't know how to swim, but what we're going to do is throw you in the middle of the ocean without a life vest, with great whites circling around in a Category 5 hurricane. And what will happen is magic. Magic will happen because you're going to learn how to swim very quickly. Again, that's just a silly analogy, but you get the point. When you push someone to the max, what ends up typically happening is, as Anthony Robbins says, if you're going to die or succeed, you tend to succeed.
Yep. I'm going to ask AP a question because it's great to hear what you think about Gritseed. But as the co-founder, so this is something that we implemented recently. We're using Gritseed now. We've loved it. That's why we wanted to do this. But AP is the one that's really using it. So, I mean, why do you like it so much? How has it been beneficial for us?
Yeah, I think Raj, you just talked about how valuable time is, and that's the biggest thing for me is how efficient it is. And we before, like for development roles, say, we would spend over 2 hours on one interview. And that's after getting resumes and sorting through the resumes and scheduling all the interviews, and then at the end, not ending up with anyone. So now we can have them take this preliminary test and see their results and look at their resumes too if we want, but see who we're 90% sure is going to be a good fit and then interview them from there. So yeah, I mean, when you just don't have the resources as far as time, this Gritseed is definitely the way to do it to make it the easiest for everybody.
Makes me so happy to hear that. We've been working really hard, and we're so grateful you guys are one of our customers. You gave us a chance, and you believed in a startup like ours, and so thank you.
Yeah,
I'm really grateful for
thank you. It's been, I mean, it's saved us a ton of time.
Yes.
I mean, anyone watching that is struggling hiring, we're going to put your guys' contact information below. Try it out. I mean, there's nothing up front for us to try it. It's only going to save you time, so I'd give it a shot. But yeah, any last comments for anyone watching? Or
How do they reach you?
Yeah, so it's very easy to reach us. hello@gritseed.com is our email. So please, hello@gritseed.com. And I'll just say one more final thing. One of our missions, is really to create opportunity for all the underemployed people throughout America. So, yes, this is amazing. We hope you save a ton of time and you find amazing people. But what I also encourage startups to do is please give people chances. You can change someone's life. You can impact the people around them. Maybe you can inspire their children to do amazing things. And there are lots of people that are out there. So please, be open to hiring different people. And yes, somebody may not have the most amazing background on a resume, but you may be pleasantly surprised what happens if you give them a chance. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been one of the most impactful, meaningful episodes we've done. So I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. If you're interested in trying out Gritseed, contact information is below. Subscribe. See you next week.